Don't look now, but in fantasy hoops, everything seems to be happening all at once. Welcome to the Fantasy NBA Today podcast, a sports ethos presentation hosted by yours truly, Aaron Brewski, and FSWA Hall of Famer Steve, Dr. A. Alexander. And for me, it's good to be back after a week off. And whether it's trade demands, trade deadlines, tanking, half the league starting to pivot into their second half of season strategies, there's just a ton of player value movement. And there's no shortage of angles to cover. We're going to cover them all as we methodically pick apart all 30 teams. But before we do that, let's say hi to our sponsor. BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion with the largest selection of odds on everything from football to NBA, college basketball, NHL, and UFC. BetOnline is your number one sports betting source for the new year. From touchdowns to three-pointers and hat tricks, BetOnline has you covered on every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. Doc, how you doing, man? It's been a week. You've done like 5 shows. I've done 0. What's happening?
Well, I can still talk, barely. I'm still not over my 3 or was it 4? At least 3 really bad beats. On Thursday night, I had
3 bad beats in one night.
3 different 4-leg parlay things going, and I hit the first 3 in all 3 of them, and then the last one I just didn't need all those late night blowouts. The late night.
You sound like Mark Jones after Jokic tossed that 80-footer or whatever it was into the hoop against the Kings. Mark Jones was going to cry on the broadcast yesterday. That's what you sound like.
I'm not going to cry, but I mean, I needed 2 more rebounds from Anthony Davis in a blowout. I needed 4 more points from Zach LaVine in a rough game. And then I needed 1 more rebound from Jakob Poeltl. He missed his double-double by 1 rebound. But it's okay. We're going to...
Would it make you feel better if we talked about Khalil Ware or Mark Williams?
Oh.
Onyeka Okongwu?
Sure.
Nick Richards?
Yeah.
All right. We got tons of buy lows and sell highs. We got the post-Dante DiVincenzo era in Minnesota, Gafford, Daniel, and the new look Dallas Mavericks. And everything feels like it's pivoting really freaking hard right now. Like I said, whether it's teams that are moving into their tanking strategies or teams that are trying to figure out the trade deadline, all sorts of stuff's going on. Some top news from yesterday. I don't know if it was serious or not, but Jalen Johnson, it seems like he hurt the other shoulder, had to leave yesterday's game. So we'll try to keep an eye on that as we go here. But let's get into 30 teams worth of breakdowns. And let's start with, we only got a 3-game night tonight. That's also weird, but it's NFL related. So, we'll just go with it. Portland at the Charlotte Hornets. The Hornets are a 5-point favorite here. That's interesting. Robert Williams doubtful after the back-to-back. He started last game, had a big night. DeAndre Ayton questionable, left knee. Anthony Simons and Jeremy Grant, that's their possible rest guys. And then Donovan Klingen's still out. And then on the Charlotte side, we got LaMelo Ball questionable with a right wrist sprain. Miles Bridges questionable back spasms. Brandon Miller finally ruled out for the season with that right wrist torn ligament. What's up with this game? What you looking for, Doc?
Well, I rolled the dice on Robert Williams at center yesterday in DFS. Turned out to be a good decision. He killed his value. 4 blocks, nice rebounds. I'll be shocked if he plays in this game. If Ayton doesn't play, we know Klingen's already out. That's going to mean we might see Duop Reith for the first time all year. And Jabari Walker, I think. Is it Jabari? Well, I don't even see. Yeah, Jabari Walker. If those 3 centers are out, Duop Reith and Jabari Walker could make a little bit of noise in this one. Scoot Henderson was incredibly disappointing yesterday. And not only did he come off the bench, but he managed to foul out in just 14 minutes. And that was problematic for me on several different levels. I'm not giving up on Scoot. Don't drop Scoot. I'm still betting my house on the fact that he's going to be a silly season barnstormer in fantasy. So that was tricky on that side. And then on the Charlotte side, I don't even know, man. I'm intrigued by Nick Richards, but I really don't think there's a big winner in the loss of Brandon Miller.
Yeah, so I think with the Portland game last night, it was weird. They got an Orlando Magic team.
Not Nick Richards. Nick, who
the
I
other
mean,
guy.
the other
Yeah,
guy.
that guy, Mark Williams. Mark Williams, man. Talk about a move into fantasy prominence. That's been fun in itself. He's been a top 40 guy over the last 3 weeks, top 20 over the last 2 weeks, and that's just cool because Charlotte feels like they're going to be tanking. That's actually kind of a question banging around in my head: is who on this team once LaMelo goes out, Miles Bridges goes out at some point? Just guessing here, if things go as they should go in Charlotte, who would be the people to step up and get the value? And you got Trey Mann might be an obvious one, but he's been out forever. Cody Martin can't stay healthy, but he's been a productive guy in the past. Vasily Micic, if I pronounced that right, that's that's my best guess at it. Nick Smith Jr. I mean, these are the names we're looking at here in Charlotte that might be silly season heroes, and it's kind of hard to figure out which one it is right now. But the Portland side, last night they get an Orlando team that's really struggling to figure out who they are when they get Franz Wagner back, and Paolo Banchero's only got a couple games under his belt. Both of them, well, I should say Banchero really, really struggled. Wagner a little rusty. Pardon me. So that your Scooter Loot, his momentum stopping in that particular game doesn't surprise me when Portland wins 101-79. So hopefully that's just a little blip on the radar there. Let's get out of this game. Let's get to Cleveland, -10 favorites at Philly. Also funny. Evan Mobley out, calf injury. Karis LeVert, questionable right wrist sprain. Isaac Okoro out, shoulder. Joel Embiid still out. Paul George off the injury report. And then you got Caleb Martin, Andre Drummond, KJ Martin, and Kyle Lowry all out for this game. With these two squads, what are you watching for these days?
Evan Mobley being out is kind of a big deal. Cleveland, I don't see any way Cleveland stays as hot over the second half as they were in the first half. And they've lost, it seems like they're starting to lose games that we kind of thought they might win recently. And maybe it's because Evan Mobley's hurt. And maybe it's because Karis LeVert's banged up. I know it's because Darius Garland literally choked at the free throw line against Houston. What a big win for the Rockets that was. But, you think that Jared Allen is really going to step up with Mobley being out. And then maybe Dean Wade does something in this game. But they're Cleveland. They're just clicking along, doing their thing.
Yeah, I'm wondering about Paul George, like top 15 value over the last 4 games. And I mean, he's as risky as it gets. And who knows what we're going to get with this team in general if they turn toward the tank. I mean, I know there's some draft picking implications there that aren't great for them. And the bottom of the East is still just sitting there and it's completely attainable. But I mean, this is a guy who's got that potential to climb up the ladder. Plus, if Joel Embiid is out for the entire season, now it turns into the Paul George and Tyrese Maxey show. It's sitting there. I think people are so scared of Paul George that you could almost get him for like a top 80 guy right now. And it's just a really interesting bet, especially if you're in a league and you really need a Hail Mary. I would consider taking a look at that. It's not for the weak at heart, but yeah. And then on the Cleveland side, Ty Jerome has had a late round value over the last 3 weeks. And if Cleveland starts to go into cruise mode, he's going to be somebody that you guys are going to want to keep an eye on. But both these teams pretty straightforward right now. Kelly Oubre inside of the top 100 over the last 3 weeks. let's jump out of that game. Let's get to New Orleans at Memphis. Memphis, a 12-point favorite here. You got Zion resting, but everybody else who's been playing is more or less healthy. And then the injury, or probably the illness bug, has hit Memphis. Ja Morant suddenly questionable this morning with an illness. Santi Aldama questionable illness, and then Jake LaRavia out as well. What you watching for here?
Is Zion going to grace us with his presence? I'm over it. I can't even hardly talk about him anymore. Memphis is easy though. If Ja Morant's out, you know the drill, right? Scottie Pippen is your guy, and Luke Kennard has been very quietly been playing at an okay level. Like if you're a 12-team deeper league and your waiver wire is kind of lacking, Luke Kennard, I think, is somebody at least worth a look. Oh, Robert Williams is out on Friday. There it is.
Hand injury.
So Ayton better player. It's going to be Jabari Walker.
That means Ayton's playing tonight. They just. Oh, geez! Right as I say that, damn. Go grab Jabari Walker.
It's officially Jabari Walker season, and maybe Duop Reith pops tonight. I don't know.
Whoa, it's been a bit.
Clinging.
Hey, there we go.
Never mind.
All this stuff's happening.
Assumed he was out.
I want to see if Donovan Clingan doesn't look like he's 70 years old on the basketball floor. That's what it felt like in the last game, that he was getting hurt multiple times throughout the game. And it felt like he had a serious knee injury. They called it an ankle injury. And just happened to be the leg that he has the big old brace on. Okay. I mean, it seems okay. He's back. I don't think they'd be gambling with him if he wasn't at least somewhat healthy. But
so for those of you who can't see what Andre is feeding us as we keep saying stuff and then, never mind.
Oh, sorry. Did we even say that Donovan Clingan is probable?
He is probable for Friday. And Ayton is out. Robert Williams is out. Forget everything I said about Jabari Smith. We are talking about the Portland Trailblazers right now. Donovan Clingan is your guy for tonight. Who did I say? Jabari Parker?
You're just, it's a Mad Libs game with names right now. It's okay. It's okay. So am I.
Jabari Walker.
But this is your call right now. I think if Donovan Clingan got kicked back to the waiver wire because of this recent injury, I mean, this is about as clear of a call to make sure that he's on your roster. I think
that's a run, don't walk.
I think it has to be. I mean, look, the odds aren't great. You know, sometimes the odds are great. Like Khalil Ware, we'll talk about him later. The odds were really, really good that it was going to hit. And so you had a lot of confidence that you could go make a big bid and go make it happen. With this one, he might crash and burn. Who knows? I was not as thrilled watching him play the other day as I would have liked to have been. But yeah, I think with the potential that he's getting, say 25, 27, 29 minutes per game down the stretch, and then just who knows what he's capable of with the blocks and the rebounds and even the scoring, he can be, I think, a top 50 guy pretty quickly. And that's just something you don't find out there very often. So even if it's a 10% chance of hitting, I think you got to run, don't walk.
And in the very least, make sure you go get him off your injured reserve and get him in the game tonight. There's only 3 games.
Yes, indeed.
We were talking
about New Orleans and Memphis. You were mentioning Luke Kennard, 53% shooting binge and top 100 value over the last 9 games. My concern there is that, my concern there is that he's going to stop shooting so well right as you pick him up. So that's just something to watch out for there. You know who's been useful for New Orleans, Steve? Javonte Green. He's been a top 100 guy over the last 7 games. 2.5 defensive stats per game, 1.1 triples. Not much anywhere else, but that's typical Javonte Green stuff. A lot of injury risk there. But with New Orleans trending toward whatever you want to call it, the tank or whatever's happening there, you know, the pre-trade deadline, resting of players, in addition with Herbert Jones being out, this kind of has opened up for him. And DeJounte Murray's been pretty good lately, as is Trey Murphy. which I feel contractually obligated to mention, a top 5 guy over the last month. I think
You mean
that'll do it.
Javonte Green is who you were talking about, right?
Yeah, did I play Mad Libs again for like the 500th time on this
I
show?
don't know.
Hey guys, if you are enjoying this game of Mad Libs and you're watching on YouTube, drop us a thumbs up on this video. That'd help us out a ton. If you're tuning in on Twitter, give us a follow at Ethos Fantasy NBA. If you're listening on the pod feed, please, by all means, shoot us a 5-star review. We would love it. Thank you so much. Let's get into the Saturday games. There's tons of games on Saturday, so it's kind of a good sports weekend. You know, with the football on Sunday, you get Saturday, just a loaded NBA schedule. So this will be fun here. We get the weirdest home and home series I've seen in like, I think ever. Indiana is playing in San Antonio. They just played in France yesterday morning. So I guess that gives them, what, 1.5 days off? Oh, it's in Paris? Oh, well, screw that. It's not the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
Oh, we are a mess. Thank God.
I'll tell you, you take a week off from the shows and everything falls apart. Okay, well, it's not the weirdest home and home series. It's Indy and San Antonio, part duh. Halliburton, part duh. As is this game preview. I don't know. What are you watching for in this game? It seems like these two teams have sort of leveled out.
I mean, I think the spread was very close for the first one, and Rick and I were like, dude, this is in Paris. This is in Victor Wembanyama's backyard. They are going to kill the Pacers, and they did. And Wembanyama was fantastic. The only reason you didn't hear more about Wembanyama is, 1, it was in Paris. 2, it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And 3, Nikola Jokic tried to go 30-20-20 last night, overshadowing everything that Victor Wembanyama did. Stephon Castle is very interesting right now because he's been in the starting lineup along with Harry Barnes, but now Jeremy Sohan is back. So you have to think Sohan and his versatility to play point guard or power forward or whatever they want. One of those two guys is probably going to the bench. I think it's going to be Castle. He's been playing well, though.
He's been playing well. He's actually shooting the ball well. His fantasy value is finally kind of decent-ish. He's not getting any defensive stats. It's like he needs 2 good things to happen at the same time. He's only getting 1. And the shooting, it's concerning because that's going to come back to earth. So the way I read it is that Sohan will get back in there and kind of do what he was doing before, but can he handle it? You know, he's rail thin and he's banging down with the bigs. It's helped his fantasy game quite a bit. Kind of a top 100 guy. But I don't know how long it can last. I think that I'm going to in my head say Sohan's going to eventually within a game or 2 get back to top 100. Castle will fall back a little bit. At some point in time, if he gets cut loose and he can get the percentages in the right directions and maybe somehow learn some defense, it doesn't feel like it's coming, but if he could do that, that'd be great. I'm watching for Devin Vassell, top 30 over the last 5 games, killing it. So maybe this is Devin Vassell's takeoff moment, but we'll see. And yes, the game is being played in France. I know things. I really do. Denver at Minnesota. Denver basically healthy.
For Indy, Obi Toppin was.
Obi Toppin?
Sorry.
Well, what about him?
Yeah, he shot it very well in that game on Thursday. I think he likes playing against the Spurs. I think he might do things. Benny Mathurin was very good in that game. Benny Mathurin quietly coming on.
I'd like to just see him on a different team, but I don't know if that'll help his fantasy value. He really just needs those defensive stats. It's a shame when a player that good just doesn't do defensive stats. It might even be because he's playing position defense, but not quite sure there. Denver healthy. Aaron Gordon slowly ramping up minutes, playing with the second unit. That's pretty cool. Minnesota.
Is he?
Is he though?
He hasn't played more than 22 minutes.
No. More than 22 minutes. Yeah, he's not playing minutes yet. I like the idea of him being a bench guy.
And he only played 17 minutes yesterday. So I would not say they're ramping up. And this move to the bench is going to be bad for fantasy, I think. I think it's probably good for reality for Denver. And because Russell Westbrook is jiving with Jokic. Like, those guys are a force. Gordon has already said, I'm okay with coming off the bench. He's done, dude. I don't think Gordon's starting for this team again this year, as long as they stay healthy. And I think his fantasy value is going to take a big hit. I think I would let him have a big game and try to move him.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's been struggling in fantasy leagues for, like different reasons of the efficiency of the free throw and not producing across the board. But I think this was the opening that they all needed, because his calf, I don't know if it's good or not. It could be the case that it's going to be injured for the rest of the season. Maybe this playing 20 minutes a game off the bench could keep him healthy for the playoffs. So they're probably thinking in those directions, but they needed a facilitator in the second unit that's not named Russell Westbrook. And that's just a really good thing, like you said, for reality basketball. And then from a starter standpoint, like Christian Brown's been good lately again.
Yeah.
Peyton Watson, not really producing, though he produced last night, had 4 blocks, a steal, and a 3. I think it's going to help all these guys. And I think it actually makes a pretty compelling starting lineup with the length and the strength that they have. It's going to be harder for teams to really take advantage of some of their defensive liabilities like Jamal Murray and in some respects, even Russell Westbrook. But yeah, I think Denver is sort of plodding along and having a good time. On the Minnesota side, what does the post Dante DiVincenzo era look like is kind of on my mind. What do you think? Do you buy into the idea that, say, Jaden McDaniels, who's been really good lately, is going to keep going? Do you buy into Naz Reid, who's been really, really good lately? Do you think that this is going to keep going? Do you think Mike Conley now is a must roster guy?
I mean, he's close. If you need a point guard, it's Rob Dillingham is not doing anything at all. And I really was hoping and pushing for Dillingham to get some run here, because I'm not a big Conley guy, but Conley was very good in his last game. I think Jaden McDaniels had the game of his life in his last game. I think the Jaden McDaniels stuff is going to fade a little bit. He's going to be okay, but he's not going to be like he was in that last game. Naz Reid is a stud and should be rostered everywhere. And then I think if you need a point guard, Conley is a guy, because just as soon as Dante DiVincenzo was like, he was in the terminal, he was getting ready to get on the airplane, and it was getting ready to take off, and then he breaks his toe or whatever happened with his toe. And now, I mean, I don't know when we're going to see Dante again, and that breaks my heart. So go get Mike Conley.
You might have a winning idea there. Jaden McDaniels, top 50, pardon me, as we're all struggling with our voices. Last 11 games. Naz Reid, top 20 to 30 over the last 2 weeks, top 60-ish over the last 11 games. These guys are getting it done. Let's get to Boston and Dallas. Boston's pretty much healthy. Dallas is a total mess. You got Klay Thompson, questionable. Ankle. Najee Marshall, questionable. Illness. Jaden Hardy, questionable right ankle. Even Dwight Powell's questionable. Derek Lively out for 2 to 3 months. So it's been the Daniel Gafford show. I think everybody knows about that. But what are you watching for in this game here?
Well, I think people should go out and place a bet on Malik Beasley to win 6th Man of the Year. DeAndre Hunter cannot shoot right now. Peyton Pritchard has really cooled off, and Vegas got all fired up about him for 6th man.
Yeah, so did
early
we.
in the season. But Beasley has been cooking all year, man. He's averaging like almost 17 points, a steal, and 4 threes a game. And he's shooting at 40% from downtown. So I think Malik Beasley is now the favorite to win 6th Man of the Year, because the Pistons, under your coach, JB, are surprising and shocking everyone. And I think he has a very good chance to win it, unless Pritchard gets super hot again. And then for the Clippers, I'm kind of on a Derrick Jones Jr. thing. That game where they benched everybody against, who were they playing? Okay, they were playing somebody good. Boston. And then they almost beat Boston. Did they beat Boston? I think it went to overtime.
They did not win that game. They fell short.
but they took him to OT. And
They
Derrick
did.
Jones
They
Jr.
did.
had a career high, filled the stat sheet, and I was like, okay, well, that was a fluke. And I loved it because he's on my 30 team. But then on Thursday night, he came back. The whole team was playing. Zubac was back. Harden was back. Powell was back. And Derrick Jones Jr. still had a solid game. So I feel like Derrick Jones Jr. is heating up. He's only like 3% rostered in ESPN leagues. So if you're looking for a warm body, it's Derrick Jones Jr.
He's been cruising. I graduated of an important league for my high stakes stuff. That was great. Speaking of 30 deep, me and you are chasing one playoff spot. I just thought I'd throw that out there. It's not great. One of us might not make it to the playoffs.
And everybody, all my guys are hurt, man. All of them.
It's been a rough injury stretch for both of our teams. Back to Boston, Dallas. Boston, I'm kind of curious if anybody might be able to get a buy low out there for Jason Tatum or Derek White. Both of those guys haven't been good lately, and it's literally the only time this season that's been the case. Gafford top 15 over the last 4 games with a massive stat line. I mean, it's just 16 and 10, over 2 assists, steal, 3 and a third blocks, great field goal shooting and great free throw shooting. So he's cooking. I think it's basically Najee Marshall, Spencer Dinwiddie, Quentin Grimes, as threats for sustained late round value. They'll go up and down, but as this team is banged up like this, and I don't know if they want to do anything in Dallas for the deadline. I think they might treat this as a throwaway year, but we'll see. Miami at Brooklyn.
And, this Olivier Prosper kid, if you're in a deep league, just at least keep an eye on him.
They got to play somebody. And the thing with Gafford, and it's worth noting, is he's banged up. Like, he got kicked in the head last night, and then Lou Dort just straight up punched him in the nuts. Like, it was pretty freaking amazing how just like wide out in the open that was.
Spencer Dinwiddie had a good game yesterday. He started. Sometimes he starts, sometimes he doesn't. I have no idea what Jason Kidd is doing with him. Do you trust Spencer Dinwiddie at all?
I do. I think it'll be up and down. I think with all these guys, it's going to be up and down, but they're next in the pecking order. It's probably a question of, is Kyrie playing? If so, then maybe you see Spencer come off the bench so they can stagger the 2 ball handlers. He becomes really redundant when Kyrie's on the floor because you really don't need Spencer Dinwiddie for too much out there. Lou Dort, in the words of Rick Camlet, Gafford, show me your nuts. Private chat. Love it. Yeah, speaking of teams that might be throwing away this season, the Miami Heat are at Brooklyn. I want to call it the Jimmy Butler show because that's what it really is. In fact, the entire league is kind of held up on this Jimmy Butler trade scenario, and that's holding up other trades around the league, it feels like. So, but it's really the Khalil Ware show. And I want to shout you out, Doc. It was like Christmas or something. I can't even remember. And you were like, you better watch Khalil Ware. And it perked my ears up. He had like 1 good game. And then after that, he had 2 good games in like 18 minutes, just like small, low level good games. And all this Jimmy Butler stuff was percolating. And it just felt like this isn't the year they're going to push Bam Adebayo into anything he doesn't want to do. It just feels like they're not going to do anything with this team that's risky. They're just waiting for the Jimmy Butler stuff to play out. And then here comes Ware as this amazing, really, prospect who can shoot the 3. I mean, people were kind of calling him Wemby light.
He looks like he reminds me of Wemby when I watch him play.
He really does. And there's no reason he shouldn't be on the floor for this team. And then Spo came out and said it. He's like, I can't get him enough minutes as a backup, so that's why he's starting. He's locked in the rest of the year. He's basically in contention for a waiver wire pickup of the year.
Yep.
Kind of a deal.
He's definitely the hottest waiver wire guy there is right now. It's at only 30% in ESPN. So,
and that's
in an ESPN league.
Like, that's crazy. And people are shouting at the top of their lungs right now this last week, like, go pick up Ware. And I'm laughing. I'm like, not in my leagues. Like, he was gone 3 weeks ago. And it's great. I mean, he's a top 175 guy in 15.6 MPG on the season, and pretty much a early round guy over the last couple of weeks. So Yeah, congrats if you were able to pick him up in 2024. The rest of the lineup's pretty interesting too. Jovic, top 100 over the last 3 weeks. Jaquez, kind of just scuffling as a late round guy. Duncan Robinson's on a heater. He's had mid round value. Which ones are you buying into right now in Miami?
Yeah, I think Khalil Ware, obviously, like must own. I don't care if you're in a 6-team league.
Yeah, right.
You go get Khalil Ware and you cut somebody. Nikola Jovic is playing very well, and between the rise of Ware and the play of Jovic, it's really hurt Jaime Jaquez. And I was all in on Jaquez, and I still am very intrigued by him, but I'd rather have either one of those guys over Jaquez. And then Duncan Robinson doesn't seem to ever go away, does he?
Well, if Terry Rozier is going to be unrecognizable, right, then it's got to be Robinson. Like it shouldn't not be Robinson. Tyler Hero or not, whatever's happening with his situation, whether he's playing in a game or not, and he's been mostly on the court all season. I would probably go Jovic, Robinson, Jaquez. It's close. It feels like they could turn the keys over to Jaquez at any given time, but maybe they haven't done so for trying to keep continuity or something. I don't know. But it's fascinating to see Jovic
versus Robinson. Yeah, Jovic has been great, but Jaquez versus Robinson, I think it depends on what kind of player you need. If you need threes more than anything else, then you pick up Robinson. If you need kind of all around, assists, rebounds, whatever, I think I'd go Jaime, but it's close.
Here's another question. Bam Adebayo has been just outside of the top 100 over the last 10 games. And, I was fading him as I was talking about Khalil Ware. Would you try to buy low? Because right now it seems like the future is really bleak for Bam. And when he's healthy, he's kind of just a top 50 guy, plug and play, no questions asked.
I don't want anything to do with Bam. And my main reason is because this is Pat Riley versus Jimmy Butler. And Pat Riley does not like to lose. Like, I could see Pat Riley being like, F everyone, I don't care. I'm going to bury this guy. I'm going to be vengeful, and I'm going to take one for the team. And I'm just going to make his life miserable as long as I can. And I don't know what exactly that looks like or what that means, but
and you think that kind of because that's kind of the theory behind my fade Adebayo approach is if your season's lost and if you've torched the season, which both of these guys have, Jimmy and Pat Riley, and the fact that the Heat are just crumbling out there right now should be everything you need to know about where this team is mentally. I don't know that anybody is winning in this scenario, Pat Riley included, Miami Heat included, future transactions in the league, included. I don't know if anybody's looking at Miami and going, I want to be a part of that mess, Pat Riley or not. So Heat culture taking a hit with this thing, but does that then in turn take Bam Adebayo and say, all right, hey, Bam, if you got like a hip issue, you got a foot issue, whatever it might be, hey, just rest that thing. We're playing for next season. That's somewhat of the underpinning behind the Khalil Ware, the early action on Khalil Ware, and even like Jovic. I feel like Miami would love to see what those two guys can do out there together so they can base their future, trade decisions and everything having to do with that. The unfortunate part is they've got Bam Adebayo for quite a bit, and I don't think that's going to look good over time. But I digress. Let's get to Brooklyn. D'Angelo Russell, questionable.
Bam knows that they love him. So even if Riley says, hey, Bam, chill out. I'm flushing the season down the toilet. Thank you, Jimmy Butler. But next year, I'm coming right back to you. Like, I don't think Bam would have a problem with that. As long as
well, it's funny, too, because this could easily turn into Jimmy Butler's playing for the Heat after the deadline. It's so funny because he will have to play well in that scenario in order to get paid. And he's got the player option, and that's, a mess as well.
And that's what I mean. Will Pat Riley even play him? Pat Riley
right.
Be like, oh, yeah, you're good, but you get 18 minutes a night now.
I wonder if he zeroed out his minutes, if Jimmy would have a claim in whatever CBA argument they would have. But it's funny. It's funny, but I'm not buying into Bam Adebayo for many reasons. On the Brooklyn side, D'Angelo Russell questionable, Ben Simmons questionable, Zaire Williams questionable. You got Cam Johnson out. He's actually got a legitimate right ankle injury. I think that's really interesting that people kind of like finally remember out there in the league as the trade chatter sort of dies down for Cam Johnson, at least a little bit, that he's an injury prone player, has been his entire career. And now teams that want to buy into Cam Johnson are going, oh, he's not even healthy right now. That's not good. Cam Thomas, he is kind of close maybe, but who knows? What are you doing with Brooklyn these days? Is there anybody on Brooklyn you want on your fantasy squad?
I'm still into Keon Johnson. I need Cam Thomas back in a worst way. Zaire Williams was looking good, but he's been hurt. Jalen Wilson is kind of intriguing. Day'Ron Sharp and Noah Clowney, I think, are going to do stuff in the silly season. I guess the silly season is sort of here, isn't it? And D'Angelo Russell was so good in his last game, so I hope he plays in this one because I've got him in a couple rosters.
Before we get into one of my favorite teams, I want to tell you guys about two things going on here at Sports Ethos. The first is something free for you guys, which is always great. And that's the Sports Ethos app, which you can get both at the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store just by searching Sports Ethos. It has all the news. You don't have to sort through any of the social media, whatever you want to call that. And it also has tools to help balance your team. And we just added a trade evaluator, and it's all based on the B150 projections. And more on that in a quick second. The other thing I wanted to tell you guys about is that our baseball draft guide is coming out soon. So if you guys play fantasy baseball or you're looking to get involved, check out our all sport fantasy pass, which you can find at sportsethos.com. Also, keep an eye out for some promos as we get closer to the trade deadline, when I will be releasing the final Brewski 150 ranks for this season during the All-Star break. We'll be making a huge deal about all of this. We'll have some great promos, so check that out and go get the free, FREE, free Sports Ethos app. It's my favorite thing on planet Earth. Speaking of my favorite things, Detroit at Orlando. I shall gush now. The JB Bickerstaff bet is now the second most likely coach of the year bet to hit. Grab that at 52-1.
Unfortunately, he's behind Kenny Atkinson,
who just got nominated to the All-Star game. One of four coaches. They got like four coaches now. So he'll get a bunch of pub, and it's, it is what it is. My book of choice offered me 2.5 times my money, and I'm not going to do it. There's no way in hell I would do that, because there's money to be made, and Detroit just needs to keep winning, and then Cleveland needs to fade as the season goes on. Also, Doug Christie as coach of the year. If this thing keeps going in sack, he's at 50-1 right now. Now, my sports book of choice doesn't have him on the board, which sucks. I would love to get some eggs in that basket, but enough about that. Detroit's doing well. I love it. Jalen Duren, top 40 over the last 11 games. Cade Cunningham doing
fire, well. Jalen Duren.
It's crazy what removing Jaden Ivey, and I didn't feel like Jaden Ivey was playing terrible this season. It just it levels it out. Cade Cunningham, it's all Cade all the time with that offense. And then he sprays it around to shooters. And Tim Hardaway Jr. is all of a sudden really useful. Malik Beasley, as you mentioned, is a flamethrower. He's going to do his thing. Tobias Harris is your kind of perfect Swiss Army knife for a situation like that. Now Jalen Duren is needed, and he's useful, and he's energized. What about Detroit and Orlando is captivating you, other than my 52-1 bet that shall pay many, many figures?
Yeah, Andre shared with me the details of that.
On that bet?
Yes, and I was like, I didn't know Brewski won the lottery. Brewski like the new Dave Portnoy out here throwing around $1 million.
Oh, I'm going to punch you after the show.
Why?
I don't like that guy.
Oh, well, that's fine. But I'm just saying
I wouldn't punch you. I would go have a beer with you at Johnny
he makes
B's.
big bets. He makes big
He
bets.
does make bets. Oh, that's right. He does make big bets.
Wendell Carter Jr. I thought he would go off with Goga Batadze out, and he usually does. But his last game was a disaster. Paolo was terrible. Franz was okay. Both point guards were out, so Anthony Black did stuff. But my goodness, what a blowout loss for the Magic. The Magic were cruising. Now they're 23-23. They're still first in their division, but I kind of feel like they need to regroup and maybe have a practice or two and get it back together.
Jamal Mosley was number 2 for a while in the Coach of the Year bets, but with them fading, that's information that's important to only me. Suggs questionable, like you said, Batadze questionable, Cole Anthony questionable. This is interesting times for Orlando. I mean, Suggs was a top 75 guy. Goga was a top 40 guy. Like, do these guys get back on track? I've got a lot of Goga out there, and I'm super concerned that now that Wendell Carter Jr. is a little bit into a rhythm, that maybe he's going to eat into some of Goga's value. And then Suggs, I'm not so concerned about his value, but it's always iffy with his injury status. And then you got Wagner back and Paolo back. And what does that do to everybody? Sac at New York, both teams healthy in terms of the injury report. Sacramento is kind of just the same as they've been the last couple of weeks. Speaking of sixth man of the year, I'll just put this out there. I would have Keon Ellis over any of those guys just because of impact on the basketball floor. This should not be a surprise to anybody that follows my Twitter account or anybody that watches the show. On the New York side, a very stable fantasy squad. What you say about these two teams, sir?
It's funny because I talked to you about Keon Ellis, and I'm like, oh my God, I've got to go get him and have him on my roster at all times in every league. And then I talked to Rick about him, and Rick's like, I'm done. I moved on. I don't have time for that. And Keon Ellis is so important to the Kings. Like, he really is like their probably third or fourth most important player. But he just,
I would stream him, Rick said.
If he's not starting, I just don't.
He's a pain. Just tough. He's a pain. I get it.
It's tough to have him on your fantasy roster.
But here's the thing. Over the last 10 games, top 65 value in 9-cat leagues.
But it's a quiet 65.
It is a quiet 65.
Invisible 65.
Yes. It you can barely even feel it. It's like
it's 65 because of what he does that people don't really care about.
Exactly. Yes, it's a 65 that feels like a 150, says Andre. It's crazy, but in terms of like gameplay, like he's way better than Peyton Pritchard. Like it's not even close. If you had to pick between Peyton Pritchard and Keon Ellis on your basketball team, and you pick Peyton Pritchard, no, sorry. And you go down the list, and it's fascinating. He bottled up Steph Curry the other night in a way that I'd never seen before. Period. In my entire time covering this league, I'd never seen anything. And yeah, maybe Steph's a little slower than he was 3 years ago, but not really. Fascinating what's going on in Sacramento. And he's getting the same amount of minutes under Doug Christie as he was under Mike Brown. So there's nothing different with the coaching there. This is a management level decision. It's 100% obvious. And if they let him go this season, it will be top 40-ish. It really will. And that'll be fun. So I say buy low. But you guys know I'm very biased in this area. Houston at Cleveland. We already talked about Cleveland. What about Houston? What's catching your eye these days?
Oh, man. They're so fun, dude. Mm-hmm. They are Oklahoma City 2 years ago. Fun. And here's what I'm fascinated by. Like, what is going to happen when, what's his name, Jabari Smith,
that guy,
comes back?
I think it might mess with him a little bit.
Because right now, Amen is locked and loaded, good to go. You don't worry about him. Tari Eason is a steals machine. He's Amen Jr. The two of them out there together just creates chaos. Yeah, Jalen Green and Alpy to the mix. It really gets crazy. And then somehow, despite Tari Eason being back and Amen playing so well, Cam Whitmore has stayed relevant. So those three guys, I'm just fired up about. I think Tari Eason, if he's sitting out there in your league, you have to go get him right now. If you're in a deep league, I think Cam Whitmore is worth streaming. Amen should be rostered everywhere.
Amon Thompson, he's top 80 now in the season. He's well on his way to the top 45 B150 rank I had him at this preseason. I'm thrilled. It's always tough to take a shot like that, and when you hit, it's the best. The Fred VanVleet's been good lately. That's been nice, and it really, NBA teams, when they collect all these assets, and then the team's not as good, not because like Jabari Smith's not good. I love Jabari Smith. I think he's completely underrated. I think he's a huge piece of what they do in Houston, but like all the other pieces, when there's not enough shots to go around, when there's not enough playing time, people get like tense and they don't play the best ball that they can play. You take one piece out and all of a sudden these guys just go gadzooks, and Houston is playing extremely well. That game against Cleveland, the last game against Cleveland was really, really fun to watch. And the missed free throws by what was his name? My guard.
Oh, Darius Garland.
Yeah, Garland. That was really good television. It was really good basketball, that game, and for it to end like that, I think it's actually going to leave a mark on
And
Garland.
Şengün hit 2 big free throws in that game as well. And you know what? Jabari Smith and Keegan Murray are the 2 players that I think really need to be on different teams. They need to change the scenery.
I like Keegan right now, the way he's being used right now in Sacramento. But yes, these 2 need more everything. And when that happens, it's going to be really nice. And Keegan's been a buy low for a while. He's been a top 60 guy in 9 category formats over the last 9 games, a really quiet top 60. But the snap on his shot is back. Physically, he looks like whatever was going on with the ankle, it seems to have healed itself. There's going to be more time off here during the break. Keegan Murray, absolute bonkers buy low. He and Keon. But Houston looking good. Let's get to Toronto and Atlanta. We got Manuel Quickly out with the left hip or groin. Ochai Agbaji, questionable with the right hand issue. Kelly Olynyk, questionable calf tightness. That started hitting him in the last game, so that's not great. Jamal Sheed, questionable, and he's getting 16 minutes a game every single night. So some minutes have opened up. On the Atlanta side, we'll be tracking the Jalen Johnson shoulder injury. Weird we haven't seen any news on that, by the way. It's not like Atlanta's like super quiet injury market. That's a little ominous. The classic hip groin injury, says Andre. Clint Capella, questionable with the right knee issue. Zach Reese-Shea out, left adductor. What do you got in this game? Toronto and Atlanta.
Well, it's only 1:30 in Atlanta, so I don't.
The people aren't awake yet.
I'm not shocked that we haven't heard anything yet. It's a little concerning. I mean, they may be waiting for, who knows,
second opinion
MRI or something. He might be in an MRI tube right now.
But did he stay out all night?
I may need to step away for a second.
I
don't know if you can hear my dog is going ballistic, and somebody just came into my house. I believe it's the guy working on my bathroom. But here's what I'll say. If Jalen Johnson is fully healthy and good to go, which I pray that he is, I feel like DeAndre Hunter is fading, and he's fading sort of quickly. He's only made like 5 out of 25 shots in his last 2 games. Bogey Bogdanovic is healthy and played well in his last game. Vic Krejci has played pretty well. And Okongwu's in the starting lineup. I just feel like, and Zach Reese-Shea has been out too. So when he comes back, that's more problems for DeAndre Hunter. I'm just saying, I'm fading DeAndre Hunter right now. I would not put money on him to be 6th man of the year. And I will be back in 30 seconds.
Little known fact, Doc has a Chihuahua just like I do. And I don't know what that explains, if anything. Toronto is kind of a crappy fantasy squad right now. Scotty Barnes is giving us top 40 numbers. That might be the best thing going on there. If you want to point out Chris Boucher being good lately, late round value, just 17 minutes a game over the last 8 games. I mean, he's hitting 65.5% of his shots while hitting 2.1 triples per game, taking a lot of threes, making a ton of them. This is not sustainable stuff, but they're showcasing Bruce Brown with all of that going on and all the questionable statuses, and then the tanking that's expected in the last third of the season. Toronto is just a total mess. Staying away from almost everybody on that squad. Atlanta, Doc mentioned it. Vic Krejci's kind of one of my favorite under the radar fantasy plays right now. He's been a top 80 to 100 guy over the last 9 games in 27 minutes. Picked him up last week and was able to take advantage of the schedule, and he had a good run for us. Onyeka Okongwu, top 40, 50 over the last 10 games, and a nice stat line. It feels like, Clint Capella, he might have left the terminal and he might be on his way to another ball club at the trade deadline. I mean, teams that need a center, I don't know if he's hurt for real or if this is just pre-trade deadline injury reporting stuff, but Okongwu finally, maybe having his moment for Atlanta. I don't know. But bravo to Onyeka Okongwu for at least being something good here as we go. Utah at Memphis. So we've already talked about
Memphis. We've been waiting 5 years for this. 5 years we've been waiting for Okongwu, and here it is. Finally. Go ahead.
Well, the look on your face during that last game preview, it was noteworthy. And the frustration, was it directed at Onyeka Okongwu? I don't know. But let's move it on to Utah.
I'm going to hurt both of you. That's what I'm going to do.
Utah.
By the way, this dude came to my house this morning, knocked on the door. I didn't hear it. And my dog didn't make a sound. And dude comes back an hour later, knocks on the door. My dog goes ballistic and all hell breaks loose here. So sorry about that.
Don't blame it on the dog. Always the owner. It's not the dog.
It's all the dog's fault.
Utah, what are you doing with Utah right now? I know what I'm doing with Utah, but I don't know what I'm doing with Utah. What are you doing with Utah?
I can't do anything with Utah. I love Keontae. Keontae is tank proof. For some reason,
he's been good lately.
They decided to bring back all their guys at the same time. So those of us who
we know why.
Bryce Sensabaugh. What are you saying?
Okay. I'm just interjecting.
You don't say George is real.
I'm speaking Spanish now. Go on.
What is happening?
I don't know.
Go.
Oh, fine. I'll talk about Utah. If you want me to talk about Utah, I am kind of coalescing around hoping that Isaiah Collier is good, right now, and the rest of the way. I know that there's issues, and there's issues with both he and Keontae George. I guess my question to you, sir, is which one would you rather have down the stretch? Is it Keontae or Collier?
It's not Collier, bro. His name is Collier.
Point taken. You make excellent points, sir.
It cracks me up.
You know what it is? It's that you said it was Dave Coulier in a past show, and I can't get that crap out of my head. You made a Dave Coulier reference. And once you made that reference,
I said that after you called him Collier.
He's French.
I like them both equally. They are
equally
oil and peanut oil, and I can't tell a difference. I think Collier is probably going to be more efficient, and I was so fired up about Collier. And then they brought everybody back last game, and he didn't do anything. But I'm still Collier's a guy. I said I was only interested in Keontae George. I'm also equally interested in Isaiah Collier. You guys just have me all fired up. If I had to pick one guy, I'm going Keontae because he's already locked in and doing his thing. And I'm just not 100% sure Collier's going to do that.
I think Drew Eubanks is going to be useful down the stretch, the last third of the season. It's going to be fun-ish. It'll be top 100 fun-ish.
What about Micah Potter? He did something there for 2 games and then just went away.
Maybe. I mean, maybe I would go Eubanks for sure before I'd go Potter. But
And Bru, you're selling Colin Sexton, Laurie Markin, and John Collins, all those guys, right?
I think so. Part of it is like Collins is going to be a mess. They're going to showcase these guys for the next week or so, but also protect them with injury stuff. It's like they want to show people just enough. Hey, yeah, he's healthy. Look, he's really good. And then let's put him back to the bench. I think with Collins, what's worrying me is it feels like Sacramento is the fit. It feels like they are probably desperate enough to give Utah something of value, like a first round pick. I don't think anybody else wants to give a first round pick for John Collins.
Who did you say wants to?
Sacramento. And I think in Sacramento, he gets like 23, 24 minutes per game. And that they get really crowded. And he's a decent fit for Sacramento in the sense that he doesn't need a ton of shots. He won't get a ton of shots in Sacramento. He's a vertical threat. He can play in the pick and roll. They can run pick and roll with like 3 different players. It feels like Collins, I don't think it's going to solve issues for Sacramento, but I think that when they're looking to make a move at the trade deadline to look like they're doing something in that front office, which is a big criticism, I think that John Collins might be the guy. Therefore, John Collins doesn't have a great future after the trade deadline. If you said John Collins was going to get traded to like Brooklyn or something, I'd be all about it. Maybe Keon Ellis will be traded to the Jazz. We could only hope. Keon Ellis, starting point guard and man with the keys to the car. Let's get to Philly at Chicago. We've already talked about Philly, so we'll talk about Chicago here. Kobe White's ankle injury feels like he's going to be out for a bit, like say trade deadline, all-star break, something like that. That's a bummer. That's a real big bummer. But Josh Giddey, Lonzo Ball seem to be picking it up. What's your read on Chicago right now?
I don't really have one. Desumu's back. Kobe White's out. That's good for Desumu. I, as a Kobe White backer in many places, I am. It hurts. I miss Kobe White. Can we please give Matas Buzelis minutes? The dude leads his team in block shots, and he plays like 5 minutes a game, and he's fun. Like, there's nothing fun about Pat Williams. Get him out of there.
He looks terrible.
Buzelis.
Pat Williams looks like a guy that should not be in the league. It's like sad. LA at Golden State, Lakers healthy.
And Vooch do you think Vooch is going to get moved?
Yeah, I think he's going to get moved, and I think it's going to be Golden State, but
I was asking, do you think Vooch is going to get moved?
Yeah, no, I think he will. I think Golden State.
Okay.
I think this might actually be the year that Chicago throws it all out and maybe tries to start over. We've got some late breaking news. DeJounte Murray and Yves Missi have been upgraded to available, and Yves Missi, I think, is a bit of a buy low right now. He has been quiet with the illness as well as the Zion in and out of the lineup stuff. I think he's going to be locked in for a great last third of the season. So make the move if you can. Back to the Lakers at Golden State. Draymond Green still out with the calf strain. Kuminga getting closer. Kyle Anderson questionable. You got anything on Los Angeles Golden State? Kind of a quiet game.
Reiterating that I don't know what Steve Kerr is doing with that rotation, but it is annoying. Steph Curry, last 3 games, he scored like 21, 15, and 16. He's only taking 15 shots a game. Meanwhile, Andrew Wiggins is out there chucking. Other guys are chucking. What a disaster, dude. What a disaster Golden State is right now.
Well, he got key on one game, but Austin Reeves, 3rd round player over the last month. So hopefully you guys bought low about 5 weeks ago when we were yelling about that. Washington at Phoenix. Washington's got Kyle Kuzma and Jonas Valanciunas being showcased. Phoenix, you got the Nick Richards acquisition. Yusuf Nurkic has been banished. What are you watching out for? I mean, Nick Richards, how about question on Nick Richards? Do you think he'll be better than a late round guy in Phoenix?
He should be, yes.
Okay.
I do.
It's the question of the day because everybody raced to get Nick Richards. A lot of people put in big fab bids, and the hope would be that he got kind of that early Charlotte look going for him in Phoenix, where he was actually productive with the defense. He's going 11-10 with just 1.0 combined defensive stats. Great percentages, but very Nick Richards-like so far. But Phoenix could unlock him. I mean, it's possible.
It's a rough start, but they hate Plumlee. They don't like Nurkic, obviously, and they haven't really turned to Iguodala at all. So, I mean, they acquired Nick Richards to play him. I think he's going to get it turned around.
If they start playing well and there's a good defensive effort surrounding him and he can kind of play off of that, it's very possible that he could be maybe a late mid-round guy. And that should have been the upside target that folks had for Nick Richards, but it's hard to bang on the guy for 3 games in a new location. But the history is there, so I get both sides of the coin there. Milwaukee at the Clippers. Chris Middleton missed the last game. He's questionable. AJ Green questionable with the left quad. Clippers. Chris Dunn is questionable with the left knee. So far, we have Kawhi Leonard in this game. So that's so far. We'll see how that goes as we get closer to game time. Kawhi very quiet. You mentioned Derek Jones earlier. What are you watching in Milwaukee and Clipperland?
Yeah, I just want Derek Jones to keep it going. I want what's his name? Where is he? Amir Coffey has been playing well. I'd like to see Harden have one efficient basketball game this season. How about that? I don't care about Kawhi Leonard. I just don't. That's all I got.
You don't? What if he starts stealing all your guys' value? Then you're not going to like him.
I'm not worried about it, dude. He's got one leg.
He is still quiet. He's just getting into late round value. Our friend Law Murray pointed out during his coverage of the game that he is finally starting to get a little bit closer to game shape. So there might be some buy low value here for Kawhi Leonard. I mean, everybody's so down on him. I mean, Doc, you won't even talk about him.
The Clippers are good though. They're 25-19. Like,
yeah, he's got something to play for.
Throw him in the mix and mess up what they got going on. I don't know.
Yes, I think they do.
Powell's back is okay.
Yeah, I mean, these guys have taken on a lot of usage and minutes early on in the season, but I don't know. Kawhi Leonard, like it's the Kawhi, Paul George, do you have the stones to buy low day here on the show? Derek Jones has been outstanding lately. I don't know what the hell got into him, but he's like, I'm very good at basketball now. One more game to...
the one thing about Milwaukee is I'm glad I stayed out of the Chris Middleton business when you guys were trying to tell me that he was going to ball out.
Wait. Us guys?
Yeah, you and Rick. The whole fantasy world. Love him. He's your favorite player.
No.
No, it wasn't
Look,
quite like
we
that.
all know there's only like 3 players I talk about. And we know their names.
You guys
Chris
had
Middleton is not one of them.
Middleton might be decent. And I was like, I'm not buying it. And then he had like 3 20-point games in a row. And I was like, maybe he is going to be good. And no. All right.
Last game. Isaiah Hartenstein, he's still out.
Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yep. Chet Holmgren is kind of starting to hit the radar. I'm curious what Rick was saying on the show last night. Did you guys talk about Chet Holmgren? He was saying sell high on Twitter. Didn't talk about it. Okay. I guess we'll talk about it here. I saw Rick.
Not that I recall. I mean, I black out for half these shows.
Got it. He was saying sell high on Chet and Luka on Twitter. And I'm wondering if the thinking is that the Thunder don't have anything to play for and that they might just kind of bring him along slowly and a lot of games off. And it might be harder to extract his overall value in that scenario. And right now, kind of the thought of Chet Holmgren coming back, people are like, I've held him for like however many weeks. And now all of a sudden I've got a first or second round guy on my hands is the thinking possibly. If you had Chet Holmgren, would you be working the sell high angles or the sell now angles, if you will?
Yeah, because it's not a sell high, it's a sell now.
Yeah.
Now Luka's name is big enough, and Luka could still win people fantasy leagues when he comes back. So we did talk about Luka. As far as Chet goes, I am. Yeah, I wouldn't mind trading him if somebody is in love with his big name and wants to give me a really solid player in return. I think I would do it. Yeah.
Nice. Case and Wallace,
They
Isaiah
don't need
Joe,
it.
Jalen. No, they don't, and they can slow play it. The alternative though is they're really they think this is their year this year, and so getting their team up to snuff. I wouldn't be surprised, and you saw this with I forget who they were playing the other day. It was like Portland or something, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was questionable, and it would have been a perfect game for him to sit, and he's like, "Nope, I'm playing," and maybe they want that blood, so to speak, to just to hit the playoffs.
Dagano should be getting votes for.
This is sacrilegious.
Dagano should be getting votes for Coach of the Year.
Don't put that into the ether. Hey guys, as we wrap up here, I want to thank you for listening. No love, because look at the team, and that's the same thing for Kenny Atkinson. Of course, you're going to win with Evan Mobley at his peak powers. Come on.
You knew Cleveland was going to be the best team in the league coming in.
I don't know if I took the over on Cleveland or not. I'd have to go check, but I think I did, and I think that it's a fine story, but it's not as good as JB Bickerstaff taking the plucky Pistons up to the 6th spot in the East. And I always said if they made it to the 6th spot, that bet was hitting, and they're at the 6th spot right now. Maybe they got to climb. It's Kenny who's ruining this. They're gonna have to finish top 4 now. I don't think they could get top 4. I think they could get top 5. Anyway, all right, guys.
Well, I'm pulling for JB Bickerstaff here because I want that to hit.
You saw that in the chat.
As I sit over here and make my little $10 here and $10 there, I want somebody to do something substantial with their life.
Yeah, and well, I mean, it's kind of a drop in the bucket when it comes to this industry, but what we're doing here with Sports Ethos, we want this to keep growing. We want to thank you guys for that. Thank you guys for all of your feedback. We are making investments in this platform and investments in this industry, and we want to hear from you guys about what you think we can do better here, what we can add to the offering, and just keep this industry growing and sort of reverse the trend that has hit the industry with social media stuff kind of moving things in the wrong direction. But thank you guys for listening. Make sure you're following us on all of our social media platforms at Sports Ethos, at Ethos Fantasy NBA. And if you're watching this live, don't forget to subscribe to the Sports Ethos YouTube channel. There's tons of shows. There's tons of stuff on each platform. So make sure that you're following and subscribe to each of them. Go download the Sports Ethos app. Thank you, Andre, for another great show. Thank you all out there for this great journey. Let's build something great together. This has been Fantasy NBA Today. This episode's been presented by Bet Online. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, be well.